Welcome back to Kaulignation, your one-stop shop for all things Kaulig Racing, Dingernation, SVGNation, and all things NASCAR, including NASCAR 25. I guess it's not the game, it's just NASCAR 25 now. We should have some stuff coming up with that in the not-too-distant future, so stay tuned for that. And obviously, this is episode 10 of Rammin' is Racing, our official YouTube podcast. We also have another podcast dedicated solely to Kaulig Racing and Trackhouse, and that is the Kaulig and Trackhouse Nation podcast, exclusively available over on Patreon. Big shout out to our channel sponsors, Lynn over at SVGNation on Facebook, and Alex over at Dingernation on Facebook. A lot to get into tonight. As the title says, Smoke, Kahne, and Kaulig's Future. Chris Rice discussed a bunch of that this morning on Sirius XM. He was on there for about 50 minutes. And we'll get into some of that stuff here tonight. And then we will take off for the next, who knows how long. 4 days, 5 days, 1 day. It depends when information comes. And it sounds like the CEO doesn't even know when certain things are going to be announced. Which tells you who has the real power in this relationship. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, Yacht Racing 45 over on X, it's Mr. Ryan. What's going on, buddy? I don't know if the mute monster has him. I don't know if he's frozen up. All right. Well, Ryan, oh, there he is. I think Ryan is suffering through technical difficulties at the moment. See if we can get him. It says, you got us now, dude?
Sorry.
Here, hold up, everybody. Yeah, Ryan's been having some technical difficulties today. I think Ryan's computer might be a little sick. So maybe you want to try your phone, dude. That's what I put in our private chat there. All right, so you're stuck with me, the lonely old Canadian here, as we start the show off and Ryan tries to fix what's going on at his end of things. I don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of the Kaulig stuff until Ryan is back. So let's start here. There's a lot of talk about the NASCAR playoff system. Do you go with the playoffs that we've had, but with a slight tweak where it's not one race at the end and eliminations are included? Do you just do the 10 race chase, or you do the 36 race point system? And the way I would break it down is I feel like and this is just the fans on social media I'm talking about, because obviously I don't have a thumb on the pulse of what fans think that are going to the racetrack each and every week. They're not always the ones that are on social media. But I look at it from a couple different perspectives. And that is, I think the people that want the 36 race point standings are the people that are diehard fans of the powerhouse franchises, which is okay. I mean, you be a fan of who you want to be, right? Yeah, love what you love, hate what you hate. I'm not here to tell you to do otherwise. But listening to Chris Rice this morning, he brought up something that we mentioned on our last episode, and that is from a business point of view. I'm talking sponsorship dollars, eyeballs on TV. You get down to the last 10 races of the year, and if you have a 36 race point system, the guys that are 16th through 10th and probably out of it at that point in time are going to not get attention on TV, hardly at all. It'll be focused on the 8, 9, 10 guys that still might have a shot at the championship. And that alone, 8, 9, or 10 guys at 10 races to go in a 36 race points format is probably overestimating what it would actually be. For me, I like what Chris Rice said. He mentioned how when there's a playoff system, you're racing to get in. Uh, it's added importance. It's more value on sponsorship dollars for people that want to come into the sport. I just think the 36 race point system is a thing of the past. I don't think it's what's best for the sport at all. And I think some sort of playoff system is needed for sure. I just think it hurts business a lot if you don't do it. And from the sounds of it, I don't think the 36 race point system is going to win out. I think those days are gone. And I was going to say, you asked me a year ago, I'd say it would never come back, but I wouldn't rule anything out at this point. Let's try Ryan again and see if he's with us. He still looks like he's freezing occasionally, but let's see if he has audio.
Yes, I am back with you. Hopefully you can hear me all right.
Yeah, I got you for now anyway.
Oh, all right. So let's run with that. So I was listening to you talk about the point system, and honestly, I'm with of favoring a playoff format over a 36 race format, though I and take that it would help other teams, because I'm of the opinion that if your team isn't in the playoffs, you get completely ignored at all. And this is something I touched on the other night, when AJ is using AJ as an example, and I think it was 4th or 5th at Darlington in the Southern 500. He did not get an interview at all with TV. And he was a top 5 finisher at the Southern 500 because he wasn't in the playoffs. So the second, for teams that don't make the playoffs, they get no coverage at all from the playoffs. Like Wallace had an incredible first couple races, got a ton of TV time, had a bad round of helps with sponsors.
Yeah, Ryan, we're gonna have to get you to either switch to your phone or kill your camera or something. Whatever's going on is just not working on your
to an
end,
extent.
man.
It prioritizes those playoff teams, but if you're on the outside,
All right, so clearly we are having technical difficulties galore. That has been the name of the game this week on this platform and another platform that we use. So, yeah, not great, not great. We're trying to work through it, and we'll see if we can. Look, at the end of the day, I understand the want and need for a 36 race point system, but I don't think Formula One is a good comparison to NASCAR. I think they're two entirely different beasts. And yeah, so we're gonna try Ryan again without a cam, and let's see if we can avoid him having to switch a device. How about now? Let's try this one more time.
I listen out and clear. Hope you guys can hear me. This is frustrating. I'm sorry, everyone that's listening to us here. I work on this computer all day, every day with very minimal internet issues, but it seems like anytime we want to do something cool like this, it acts up. So with that said, I agree with you that the 36 race schedule, it's that format is antiquated and doesn't need to be in existence any further. But I'm more of a 10 race chase kind of person. I like that format, the original format. I know Jimmy Johnson dominated that format. Was it 5 in a row? And I think honestly that was one of the main reasons we went to the current format is because we got to Jimmy Johnson winning all the time. But I think that at least short enough. It's still 10 races. It's still a playoff. You can even still eliminate if you want. But I think counting all of the points over a 10 race period gives you an honest representation of who the best driver was at the end of the season during a playoff run. So that's my personal preference. I don't know if that's the direction they're going to go, but it is better than a full 36 race format. I'm glad that that seems to be off the table.
This might seem radical, but this is what I would do. It's not something I think they're considering, but if you're doing 10 races, and for the record, I would do 12. You know, it's a 36 race season. I'd have the last third be playoffs. But if it's 10 races, I would legitimately have 20 cars make the playoffs. And before anyone says, well, that's not a challenge to make the playoffs, then 29th through like 17th is so fucking close in points the last 4 or 5 races of the season. I have 20 cars make the playoffs. And after the first 2 races, the bottom 5 guys are gone. After the next 3 races, the bottom 5 guys are gone. And then you have 10 cars racing for a championship in the last 5 races. That's how I would do it. You get TV time, you get added value to sponsors, 4 more spots for teams, closer chase race, and no win and you're in. Fuck that. That shit's got to go.
I think even now what you're describing complicates what they're trying to achieve. There's a lot of elements to this conversation. One thing that I know for certain, you know, from a casual fan standpoint, is the current system's too complicated. Oh, well, if you win, you win. You get a bonus point for leading the most laps. You get a bonus point for winning stages. Oh, they carry over, but some points reset, right? One of the big complaints is it's too much. So even what I think you're suggesting, while even that adds a lot of complexity that I think they are trying to obviously you don't want to dumb the sport down too much, is what it is. It's still a championship. It's not the best drivers performing at the highest level, you know, end of the season stage. I just think there needs to be a, I don't know, happy medium of I do not like it, even though I was very much rooting for Hamlin. And, you know, I am a closet Denny Hamlin fan, have been for a while. The fact that he was the best car and he didn't win the championship, you know, I still would like to see that format scratch. It's just terrible. But going to 20 cars, don't win and you're in, eliminate five, and then I really think a more simple format, if you are going to eliminate, I would say 1 elimination tops. Maybe if you want to do a top 8, I could get behind a top 8. And then all points carry over. There's no resetting. It is what it is. You build off of that. I am still a fan of win and you're in to a degree. I do think, based on what you just said, I agree. The midfield, truly, 15th in points to 28th in points, 30th in points even, is then a margin that I think really competitive. And we saw some ebbs and flows all year long. And at the end, I think AJ was 28th in points, even though he was running as well as 15th at one point. I like the idea of giving the mid-pack teams something to strive for. But I don't know increasing the field to 20 makes. I would say keep it at 16, but for winning in at the top 10. If you are a top 10 in points, your winning in doesn't count. So it kind of eliminates that 30th back nonsense we saw with SVG. It's just, I want that to go away. But if you're running competitively at the top of the field and you win, you're locked in. From 11th on back, baby, fight it out with points. And that's just kind of how I stand on it. Even that, I don't think we'll get. I have my understanding from what reading the tea leaves, we are going to get a 3-3-4 format with 6 cars and likely a 6-car 4-race champion to the end. It's not the worst either. It kind of gives you a little bit of everything in that format.
Yeah, I mean, I'd still seriously considering opening it up to the 20, and I do think the points should reset. But I think that what you earned like through stage points and wins and etc. during the season should stay. So like SVG won 5 times. If he's gonna make the top 10 out of say 20 drivers, then then I think those points should carry over too. To me, you want to keep it close. You want the last races to mean something. At the end of the day, as long as it's not 36 races, I can live with it. As long as you're racing for a playoff berth, I can live with it. I just think it matters to have it like that. Anyways, let's shift gears here, man. Speaking of software technical difficulties, I did my very best to try to ready clips from Chris Rice's radio hit this morning, and just could not get them to show up on the software. So I don't think those are the same issues we're having right now. But what we can do is go to the very highly detailed tweet that we put out earlier today and recap that a little bit. And we'll just go over piece by piece as it comes up. Let's start off with last time we started with the Tony Stewart, Kasey Kahne stuff. We won't start there this time. Let's start with the RCR Alliance, man. Chris Rice on the RCR Alliance. It's over immediately. Kaulig is on their own. Not at the end of 2026 like people put out there. Right now. There will be no Cup support or technical information shared. They will, however, still use ECR as an engine provider. And that's it. Kaulig will hang their own bodies in their new fab shop for both Cup and the Truck Series, and they're close to hiring their last person for that endeavor. Thoughts on that?
Well, again, I think I'm happy that this is the direction they're going. They needed to pivot away from RCR. We can rehash the reasons for that over and over and over again, but I have, no doubt that fact with RCR extended through 2026. I believe that was the case. That was the contract. But everything changed. And the day they announced RAM, and while everybody was playing nicely and tiptoeing around what was obvious to at least to us, and I would assume to most outside observers, that once you sign with a new manufacturer, that's going to completely change the landscape, and it has. Whether the decision to void the contract with RCR as an alliance partner came directly from RCR or Richard Childress, came from Chevy directly, doesn't really matter. All we know is that the technical alliance is over. They are not getting any sort of setup, no sort of data from the simulators, no nothing. They're not getting the bodies, as you just mentioned. They're going to have to go to the fab shop and do it themselves. They're going to have to do their own simulation, which, by the way, I'm very excited about. Of course, I work in the simulation industry. I do it for a different pathway, but I very much understand how advanced high-tech simulators work and understand the benefits of them. And I think them getting their own software, building it up themselves, is going to be nothing but beneficial for them long term. I, of course, expect there to be some challenges. They're going to have growing pains. I don't know the intricacies of hanging a body or, how difficult that is or what benefits it might have by doing it yourself versus getting it prefabbed by somebody else. But I do think them doing all of this on their own, building their own notebook internally on what it takes to be a competitive tier 1 operation is a massive step in the right direction. And one thing I heard when I listened to the interview, it was just, I think kind of not even a thought when Chris said this, but he made the comment of, now we're not going to have to comb through all of this information to grab breadcrumbs. And that kind of caught my eye or my ear, and I'm like, I wonder what he means by that. I don't know, obviously, what the agreement was in place with Chevy, what the agreement was with our car, but based off that, kind of seemed like they weren't given clear direction, even when they were getting data, that they were just getting some level of data dump and told to siphon through it and grab what they wanted to grab. Which, if I was a paying customer, would be pretty annoyed if I wasn't getting clear, concise notes and information. So, I think that's a whole headache. They don't have to play the politics. They don't have to deal with Austin Hill's bullshit. They're not going to have to deal with the ramifications of pissing off RCR or ECR for that matter. I know they're leasing those engines. That's fine. But, when AJ blew 2 engines in the span of 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and he just completely blew his top and said ECR engines are the shittiest thing ever. Then they had to deal with that fallout. None of that matters anymore. They're just writing a check, getting the engines, and not worried about anything else. Will it affect their performance? I don't know. I don't think it will be as bad as people might think, but it is definitely going to be a challenge for them to compete next year. But it is a step in the right direction, and I'm super excited that is exactly what happened.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of good points there. I still don't think doing it on your own is going to be all that easy, especially when you've just brought in a bunch of new faces. But we'll see how it all unfolds here as time goes. Um, I sometimes it feels like you and I will put something out there on social media, and because we're not what most people would consider mainstream, there's this pushback to not necessarily discredit what we put out there, but well, it must be something else. These guys must not know what we're talking about. And to an extent, it happened with the Kaulig pit crew situation. Happened again more recently, and then happened again today when people were saying, sorry, not today, a few days ago, someone had taken one of our tweets and said, well, they were in touch with Kaulig, and Kaulig said that the RCR alliance is good through the end of 2026. And we were pretty positive that was not the case. And it turned out to be that. I think it's for the best. And you mentioned not having to deal with Austin Hill. Well, there's a win already. Not having to deal with that asshole. Let's move on the sponsorship situation. We'll touch on both points here. The Cup cars only have 9 to 12 races open combined between both cars. And if you include the Clash and the All-Star race, which I assuming he was because you still need to sponsor those, that would be 64 to 67 races funded for next season out of 76, which is considerably more than they've ever had before. Chris mentioned on last week's show that RAM and Stellantis would be supporting the Cup program too. Let me just say this. The fact that you got through last week's interview and no one followed that question up was bad enough. But the fact that that question didn't get followed up today when it's on the same network and one of the two hosts was there last week and you had an hour is pathetic, in my opinion, utterly pathetic. And I've been doing this type of thing for about a decade, most of it in a different industry. And you get something like that put on your lap, you have to follow that up. You're not doing your job if you're not. But we were also told to be very likely RAM and Stellantis branding would appear on the car, given the amount of races they've covered. I think that's what it's from, man. I don't think just magical new sponsor popped out of nowhere and threw an extra, 10, 12 races down on each car. And we know for a fact one of the sponsors, we can't say who, has greatly reduced their support heading into next season. it feels like, hey, Ram and Stellantis bought a bunch of races. Not everything, but a bunch. What's your take?
First off, I quickly on SiriusXM and the NASCAR channel. I know Jeff Gluck just put out there a couple days. It's not a propaganda channel. I have a hard time believing that there isn't some corporate shilling taking place the NASCAR network or the XM90 channel, that they clearly are in bed with NASCAR. They literally sponsor the channel. That they are going to put NASCAR in the best light. And truthfully, I think, and they are very protective of that. And the relationship that Mike Bagley, Pete Pistone, and Chris Rice have built over the last handful of years of him being on weekly, to me, is pretty evident. And this was a situation in my eyes where they were protecting Chris from himself, for this, whether it's for the organization, for NASCAR as a whole, for the Rams, Stellantis as a brand. I personally feel this isn't the first time that there have been some really specific things that Chris has said where there was no follow-up. And I do firmly believe that either Kaulig themselves, they're, has of no touch topics, or they themselves understand and know more than we do, which they certainly do. And they know certain things are off limits. I feel like this is one of those situations where they were asked kindly or knew already not to touch that subject. I don't know why, but to me, this is something that channel has been doing since it came into existence. There are some very obvious things that happen in the industry that you, me, and every other passionate fan out there go, what the hell? Why is this not being brought up? Why are we not talking about this? It's not the first time. So that part is frustrating. Said, I agree to pretty much with you that Rams Stellantis has substantially put their foot where their mouth, put their money where their mouth is. That's the right phrase. And they are supporting Kaulig financially for their cup program. And I do think we're going to see some B plus, B Pro Auto and Direct Connect on the side of those cars. And that for sure is a huge chunk of those races. I'm on board with that. But he also spent a lot of time today, really singing the praises of Ty Norris and saying Ty Norris has really helped me out, really helped the organization out, getting into the right rooms. We're getting opportunity to sell our brand. He was very specific in saying, companies want to sponsor big names. They want to sponsor, things that they feel, that are going to get them, airtime, that's going to get them viewed and seen. And as soon as they became a Dodge Ram Stellantis program, all of a sudden their phone ringing and they were getting opportunities that they weren't getting before. And more so than just B Pro Auto being on the side of these cars, I legitimately think being the tier 1 brand of Dodge on its own has significantly opened the doors to sponsors to be on the car, existing sponsors wanting to step up their relationships with Kaulig, obviously no Xfinity program. I legitimately think we're going to see boosts in Celsius and Campers Inn and all these other programs. I don't obviously know who the new partners are out of what we assume will be Dodge, products, but I honestly want to give the shout out and the credit to Ty Norris and Chris Rice and the whole sales program for going out there and I think working their magic, getting on the phone and making deals and getting deals done. That's Ty Norris came to the organization. Obviously, I think he spearheaded this whole Ram thing from the start, to be honest. But beyond that, we expected him to land sponsors. And while we didn't see that fruit necessarily last season, I am firmly positive in saying we're going to see that fruit this season. So a little bit of all of those things playing a big part in them having their inventory sold as much as they do.
Yeah, I wish that I could take that perspective, but I honestly can't. I don't think it's a bunch of their current sponsors jumping up. And as much as I would love to hear they got an outside sponsor to grab a bunch of these races, I don't think that's the case. Like Celsius was scheduled to do 9 races this year. Although Chris had the caveat in an interview at the beginning of the year where he said they may do more, we're not sure. They ended up doing 11. Celsius did 11 races this year. Black's Tire was supposed to do 2. They did 4. Action Industries, which is a Kaulig company, but it's not like it's just Matt Kaulig's company. So it still works to have them on the car. They did 7. Grizzly was supposed to do 4. They did 5. Campers Inn did 1. Leaf Filter did 4. And then there's some other one-offs sprinkled in there. It would not surprise me at all to find out that RAM and Stellantis are going to be on both the 16 and the 10, 10 or 12 times each this year and ate up a bunch of the, and that might even be aiming low and ate up a bunch of the free races. Again, this is based off of Chris Rice's comments mostly, and then comments from a source of ours who is messaging me while we're on air. So I apologize that I can't be doing both things at once, but here we are. Um, Hang on, we got OJ toothpaste. I want to touch on what he said. If the software would let me pull it up. There we go. Kind of pissed off. Eric Estep didn't even mention you guys in his video. Uh, let's see. You guys started the first video about Stewart and Kahne, and he gave no credit. And he says, kind of pissed me off to clarify. So, look, in my experience doing the content creation game, um, unfortunately, that's how it works more times than not. Now and then you'll get a really good guy who's a lot bigger than you. And to be clear, we commented on that video to clarify it started with us. It was mentioned without naming names, but heavily hinted at by DBC. And then outright, Mike Skinner said he heard the same thing along with his co host. So it's out there in more places than just us. But I appreciate you saying that because I'm fairly confident that our questions were screened this morning and not given to Mr. Rice. So it is what it is. Ryan and I have been at this for a while now, and I think we've just accepted the fact that we're going to have very little mainstream colleague support. But we've had guys like Mike Cook come on. We've spoken at length with Jared Antley behind the scenes, and some other people that we can't mention by name because we don't want to get them in trouble. Um, but we've been able to develop some connections. We love the team, and I have
Yeah,
nothing
and
but
I just
respect for
I
Rice.
just want to yeah, and I just want to build on that too. Is like at the end of the day, we are a growing channel. I would say, you know, I appreciate everyone that's been supportive of us on X these last few weeks. Really helped grow our presence there. Obviously, our YouTube channel here has done okay, but it's still pretty small. As we continue to do this more and build this up, I believe we're going to get more recognition as we go. Um, this is one of those situations where I think Eric has clearly seen our work and was rightfully unsure of you know the accuracy of it without knowing more. Um, but as some of this does in fact come to fruition, I think that will certainly strengthen our that we were one of the first on this, and that credit will eventually come from that down the road. Yeah, you just got to build the reputation that the accuracy is there, and then when that happens, the bigger products will start taking us a little bit more seriously. I think of that though.
Yeah, I think that's the case sometimes with people that have a good head on their shoulders. I wish I could say there's no bad feelings at all, but Eric's co-host, I forget the guy's name, but his channel is The Iceberg, flat out took. one of our, I don't want to call it scoops, but reports, read it word for word in a video. Ryan and I talked about this off air and proceeded to not give any credit to where it came from. And that kind of pissed me off. And that shit happens sometimes. And honestly, it happens more than it doesn't because the content creation industry is not a I scratch your back, you scratch my back, like people want it to make it out to be. It's a lot of you scratch my back, and I'm going to do very little for you. Um, Take a guy like Owen Johnson over at Cupsy, has never asked us for a thing, but has always been good about communicating with us and has appeared on the channel a couple of times. There are good ones out there for sure, and Matt Weaver interacts with us online too. Um, but it is what it is. We appreciate the support, but I think we also know that that kind of thing isn't gonna. It might loosen up the bigger we get, but it's never fully gone because it's a dog eat dog type business. So it is what it is, but we appreciate the support. It really does mean a lot. Where were we now that I'm done with that? The other thing is he confirmed Celsius will be back, but that he understood why some people jumped to the conclusion that they might be gone given the tone of his post, essentially. I'm paraphrasing there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy Celsius is back, and it sounds like they're back long term. They might even pop up on a truck. We'll see. Not that they need funding over there, but I'm sure they won't say no to more. Yeah, I'm happy Celsius is back. I was open to the possibility after his tweet for sure that they could be gone because of the way he worded it. And I'm glad that he acknowledged that in the interview. But happy that Celsius is sticking around. What about you, dude?
Yeah, for sure. And not just sticking around, but he made it pretty clear that it was a multi-year deal with them, right? So again, we don't know exactly what that. He was very poignant in saying that they were very happy with their relationship with AJ and the 16 team, and that they were going to be around for several more seasons. And again, in a sport that has a ton of upheaval, and he said it today, clear that it's a literal year to year thing. You're doing each budget. You can't really plan for 5 years, even though they gave AJ a 5-year contract. It's the exception, not the rule. So, again, knowing that Celsius is allowed, of course, they're going to be spread around. He even said that they're going to sponsor some cars in the Xfinity Series, which, of course, they're not in next year. And again, like I do think to take some of that money, put it into the trucks. As I said, they don't really need it, but hey, you put sponsors on trucks that aren't Ram and Dodge. That's just more money to go out and get right parts and pieces. And again, I'm not expecting them to go from 11 races to 20. I'm not. But I would not if they go from 11 races to 14 or 15 with AJ next year as a primary, knowing that they can funnel some of those monies elsewhere besides the Xfinity side. So that was really good news. And he just quickly on it, not just Celsius, he was very he was very specific in mentioning the other sponsors like Grizzly. He mentioned Grizzly. That sounds like they're coming back. Same thing with Campers Inn. I know they didn't do a lot of cup races, but they were on the Xfinity car quite a bit last year. So how that translates to what they're going to do next year, I don't know, but he was pretty confident they're coming back. So, again, while I'm not expecting significant increases from the partners, it's pretty clear that all of our existing partners are coming back. And in a sport that is dog eat dog, I mean, Kroger leaving JTG Doherty is an example, pretty much crippled that whole organization. It is at least comforting to know that Kaulig has done a good job of cultivating those relationships, and seemingly even in a year of transition and upheaval, they have a good, strong base that they're going to continue to build from, and is a crucial foundation to everything they want to do going forward. So I am quite excited about that.
Yeah, me too. That's one I definitely did not want to see, leave, and I'm happy that they are staying. Let's dive into another point here from the interview this morning. Make sure we cover everything. On the Ram show announcement, Ram and Stellantis keep moving the announcement back. It was supposed to be last week. Chris said they will announce it when they're ready. Ram and Stellantis are going to blow the world away with everything they're doing. They had a conversation with a guy they hope they can announce soon, and he really opened their eyes to different lenses, not just the NASCAR side of things. And I mentioned in our tweet that it sounds a lot like Dana White, who we believe is one of the show's producers. If you don't know who Dana White is, think UFC and think those power slap things you see on social media, and TKO, the parent company that owns UFC and WWE. Like, he's a very big wig guy and has been for a very long time, and definitely knows his shit in terms of entertainment. Um, I would be shocked if that's not who they were referring to. And they're filming it. That's exactly where he was today in the doing the show from the RV. So um, when we will hear an announcement, I don't know. There'd have to be quick turnaround on the thing, like, because the show needs to come out and finish before really even the ramp up to next season begins. So um, thoughts on all of that, dude?
Sorry, little sluggish there with the mute button. But first off, yeah, I would be very surprised if it's not Dana White. And again, I know part of the show. Beyond that, what could he bring to the table? Who knows? Maybe some business insights. Again, you're looking for creative ways in an industry where money and sponsors have kind of gone downhill. Bringing in people like Dana White, who have established a multi-billion-dollar, extraordinarily successful foundation with, as you said, UFC. That's somebody that I would like associated with. I don't know if they could cross work to sponsor each other. Maybe they could do something with the fighters. They could maybe sponsor something down the road with UFC. Who knows? But I think it just opens doors that we're just not there before, and I hope the right people are walking through them, or they're capitalizing on things like this, because Dana White and what he's able to produce is going to do nothing but give you visibility, and that's what Dodge and are looking for. They want visibility, and that's super important for them, and they're going to get it with Dana White. With the show, listen, I think they're going to be wrapped up with filming before Thanksgiving here in the United States, which is a couple weeks from now. At that point, I'm guessing we'll see something on the television screens by late December, early January that leads right in. It wouldn't surprise me in the least if they actually, if they did this the right, they could literally show. So the winner is basically announced the week of the first race. That would be badass. I would actually really love
Let
that.
me interject. Let me interject here. That will never work. As a guy who's covered the entertainment industry for a long time, this isn't just a racing thing. There are way too many people with loose lips. It's not just Chris Rice. If you wait that long, I guarantee you we will know who won that show and is in that truck months before you find out if they do that. Not weeks, not days, months. I will bet everything I own on that. That is a guarantee. Disney and um, MGM, Amazon, DC, Warner Brothers, HBO, all these big companies that do similar things to this are never able to keep a lid on stuff. These guys are no different. NDAs don't mean shit. If they don't have a quick turnaround on this thing, it will be spoiled. It'll be spoiled. And, maybe they don't care about that. I imagine they do. But if you're a diehard who's, on social media looking for this stuff, it's 100% going to be out there. It's a guarantee.
Yeah, you're right. That's more likely than not. You're right. I mean, today's world, there's just too much information floating around. But nonetheless, I
It's
mean,
because
we'll
of
see
how
how
many
it plays
people
out.
that have to be involved.
Yeah, but you're
It's the
right. The
number of
window is
people
narrow,
involved in a
though.
project.
So yeah,
Very
so
narrow.
So I mean, even if they, and I don't know what a turnaround is on something like this, maybe they've got, they've been filming. Let's say they've been filming this for a week or 2 weeks at this point. Maybe they're already
And
working
I
on the
think it ends at the end of
first
next week.
episode, and they can get it out, right? Yeah. So from the last recording, I don't know what the turnaround time could be, but imagine it would be several weeks at best. Right? I couldn't imagine them getting anything on television in December or early January, just knowing how, in fact, we're mid-November at this point. So,
I think it just depends who has it, right?
but
Like
nonetheless, we
who's
all
going
know.
to air it is
Yeah.
whoever airs it's going to have a say in it, unless it's the crappy little NASCAR channel, in which case they probably have all the freedom in the world over there, but also wouldn't be worth nearly as much money. I'd still say keep an eye on Amazon. Would not be shocked if that's what ends up happening here. But yeah, it's coming. Obviously, I think Chris thought he was going to be on today with the capability of talking about that project, and clearly that hasn't come to pass yet. And then, last but not least, the main eventer, Chris Rice, on the rumors of Tony Stewart and Kasey Kahne running races for their Ram truck program. This is what he had to say. We don't have a contract with those guys. Do we talk about those guys? Absolutely. Are they going to drive a truck for us? If it's available, we would love to have anyone who's driven a Dodge car in the past drive a truck. There are no contracts with us that they're driving anything yet. Very specific words. As of right now, they don't have a contract with us. Well, if anyone paid any attention to how late Brendan Queen officially signed his contract, or Justin Haley, though, that's like the last step in the process, believe it or not. And to me, man, this reeked of there's a damn good chance it's happening, and he can't talk about it yet. I would not guarantee it, and I still won't guarantee it. But knowing how these things play out and knowing how Chris is with these things, despite some people trying to, word this as if it was a denial, even Eric Estep, you look at his last video and it's no contract, and then in big capital letters, as of yet. He had every chance to turn that down and say, nah, there's nothing there. And he's turned down ship in the past, like, no, we're not getting rid of the Xfinity cars, and it's not going to be like us selling or trading them our Xfinity cars for their trucks or anything like that. I don't know about you, man, but this seemed very clear to me that at the very least, this is a real distinct possibility.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost a copy paste of how he answered the question about their Ram relationship about a week or two before it became official. And he beat around the bush, but he also kind of didn't. It was very clear that they have had conversations, with some representation at a minimum, and that it seemed like he was pretty confident that something was there. So I agree with a name like Tony Stewart and what that represents. I'm cautious to say, yep, that's absolutely happening, but it certainly feels like, even from a couple days ago, that this has become even more solidified. And while things can fall apart last minute, um, I just think this is pretty close to as done as they are allowed to say. And again, like, when you speculate, where would we likely see him? Specifically, I think he would be at Daytona. He would be the first race. It would cause a bunch of fanfare and hoopla, and everybody, all the cameras and all that would be all over it. And then maybe you could get him again one more time, but as if that is a one and done for him, and that's okay. Kasey Kahne definitely feels like a much more realistic 2 or 3 races, and it sounds like they're trying to make that happen. So this is as close to being done, especially the way Chris stated it today. Knowing his tells, this feels pretty close.
Yeah, let me just say, if I was playing poker with Chris Rice, it wouldn't go well for him. Uh, um, I don't think that's ever going to get to happen, but I'd be pretty confident in my ability to take him in a poker game. Yeah, I think that's. I thought you worded it better than I did. Actually, the Ram deal was the best example of that when he um what was it the week before, I believe, and then that
I
happened. And again, we had to listen to that interview a couple of times because I know the first time you had listened to it, you didn't think much was there, and the second time you listened to it, you're like, you know what? There might be something there. And sure enough,
Yeah, so if just really did feel similar to that, because and again, I know we were kind of giving Mike Bagley and Pete Pistone a little, some heat earlier in this episode, but while there are certain questions that I do think they avoid, there are certain questions that they're not afraid to tackle, and they were very specific about this Tony Stewart question today, and they were very specific about the Dodge Ram situation. Admittedly, Chris kind of stumbled his way to opening that door, but then they followed up and said, "Hey, what's the story? Is this actually happening?" So, to their credit, they didn't beat around that bush, and Chris Rice gave a typical Chris Rice answer, which in this case I feel like said a hell of a lot. So, we'll see what goes over the next few days, but I feel pretty confident about this at this point.
yeah, I would agree with that. I would say another thing that you can now count as confirmed, the fact that they were even discussing the topic at all and it remained an open possibility, is there should be no question whether or not there's an all-star truck anymore. There's very clearly an all-star truck, and very clearly the intention is to get past Dodge drivers in it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's I'm legitimately surprised that they didn't actually just formally announce that at this point. Like, you don't go around, and you brought up a name the other day that it didn't cross my mind, but listening to him tell the story about how he got into racing as a team owner with, I think Elliott Sadler is a real name to keep an eye on as well, to get in the truck and run a handful of races. I realize how strong of a relationship that those two had, and they crashed on Hermie Sadler's couch and they worked together and built together. Elliott Sadler was not just drove for Dodge. I would say he was one of their best drivers. Won several races driving a Dodge. So yeah, Elliott Sadler makes sense. And at this point, it's not if they're running a Star Truck, it's who's going to drive it and for how many races. So that I'm certainly looking forward to getting that picture a little bit clearer. And to the point, I fully expect that we won't know every ever of that truck at the beginning of the year. We'll probably get a handful sprinkled in throughout the season, which in and of itself is exciting to keep people on their toes. So this definitely represents, I think, what Ram and Dodge are trying to do, and it's going to be very fun, exciting off season for us for sure the rest of the way, and even into next year. No doubt they're going to keep dropping nuggets throughout the year that's going to keep our seats.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm looking forward to it all. So just got this message as we're on the show, so I'll confirm it, but I cannot give a date. Uh, Jaron Antley, the car chief of AJ Allmendinger's number 16 Kaulig Cup entry, has officially confirmed he will be joining us on the show. We just got to work on a date and a time that Ryan and I can both be available, because we want to make sure we're both there for something like that. So that's exciting. And then also, dude, yet again, no mention of Christian Eckes. And given the information that we found out about, um, we'll just say, given some of the information we found out today about something to do with the Cup Series, it really feels like he might be done. And it's very weird that they haven't talked about the 10 thing publicly.
I can't wrap my head around it, man. It's very, for as public as they've been about this process with Dodge and Ram, and yes, they weren't just spilling names. They didn't give us Butterbean right away. Like we had to, they teased it. They gave us it together. Then we were waiting. Then Daniel, all right, Justin Haley. That was a bit of a surprise, but they came at the same time. Like it's just very odd that they have been so radio silent on the 10 car. And one of the questions that was asked today by somebody on X, it wasn't us, was, hey, what is the Cup series going to look like? Is it going to have the same players, right? And while it didn't specifically ask about drivers, which specific about that, the question was, in my eyes, pretty asking. What Chris said was, yeah, our crew chiefs are coming back. It's going to be Trent Owens and Andrew Dickinson's coming back. Our engineers, I'm very happy to hear he's coming on the show. Big fan of his, and we've kind of had some jokes at his expense, getting kicked out every other week. It felt like, he's sticking around, and it sounds like the traveling crews are sticking around with maybe one or two exceptions. The pit crews are coming back, right? Like, and then he was like, yeah, AJ and Ty too. There was a little bit of a hesitation only at one point, and that was specifically around Ty being in the driver's seat, which again, they haven't confirmed it, but it seems like that's the direction they're going. But it's like they had even right then, who's going to be your drivers? And he answered everything else, but was not clear about the drive lineup. And he hesitated to mention Ty on more than one occasion today. So while it certainly feels like it's going to be Ty Dillon in that car, it's the time's ticking. It's November 13th, and we haven't heard a damn thing about what Ty's doing, full-time, part-time, what's Christian Eckes doing. I can't wrap my head around either of those topics, because if Christian Eckes, in fact, let go or his contract is voided because there's no Xfinity program, it would be pretty easy, I would think, for Chris to talk about that. Again, I'm coming around to it finally. I didn't want to be at this point, but it certainly feels like Christian's gone. And if that's the case, it would be pretty simple to say, yeah, we had a contract with Christian. It was long term, but due to the Xfinity series shuttering doors, we had to go our separate ways, right? You can word it however you want. But to me, that's a pretty easy thing to do if something fell apart because of what they're doing with Dodge and Ram. And it just seems like it's a complete black hole topic. Like today, like you talk about them not talking about Ram potentially sponsoring the Cup, completely refused to ask anything about Christian Eckes' future. And I just simply don't understand why. So I feel like it's probably at the point where it's pretty clear that he's not coming back. I still don't know, because we have had no clarity at all. So that is beyond frustrating, but we'll know soon enough, I guess, who's going to be in the 10 car, and then you can kind of dot the I's and cross the T's at the point about what's going to happen with Christian.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We're gonna have to follow things as things come. There's lots to still come. I don't know if this was it for his radio hits, if he'll still be on next Wednesday morning. He said he still had a few left last week, but we will see. It kind of sounded like that might be the last time to talk to him for a bit. But we're gonna have the Ram announcement eventually. They're gonna have to announce something with the 10, and then there's another Ram announcement, which is the All-Star truck. Eventually, sponsor announcements will happen, and things will leak, and that's just the way this works. And we will follow it all closely, as closely as we can here at Kaulignation. But that is going to do it for this episode. Ryan, what do you got going on, man? Where can everybody find you at?
Hey, man, appreciate it. You can find me on X with my Yacht Racing 45 handle, over there on our Facebook pages, Roman around Kaulignation, Dingernation, and of course, Kaulig RAM. just hanging out with you on this YouTube channel. I love doing these with you every. I would say it's a little weird. We did Tuesday, Thursday this week, but I think Wednesdays will be our primary days going forward. So I'm just happy to get the opportunity to continue to talk about this stuff.
Absolutely. Don't forget to check us out on social media. On Facebook, it's the Kaulig Racing group, Kaulignation group, Dingernation group, and SVGNation group. On X, it's at Yount Racing 45, at Ramen is Racing, and at Kaulignation. For bonus content, check out patreon.com/Kaulignation. And to our channel sponsors, Lynn over at SVGNation and Alex over at Dingernation, thank you for allowing us to come out here and do what we do. That is going to be all for now, and we will see each and every one of you in the next video.